All right, so it was a few years ago. It's hard to remember exactly, but I got ripped. I mean, ripped on social media. And it went something along the lines of yours truly using the old standby line that sports is the original reality TV. And some rando response was, that was my saying, you ripped me off. Of course, I have no idea who this person was, but they were accusing yours truly of some sort of plagiarism, okay? I'm sure it was Paulie plagiarism because I'm sure I ripped it off from someone else. But this is my intro, Danny, to put it to you. Is this season more than any other in recent memory basically an edition of Survivor? Isn't that like your all-time favorite show, Survivor? Is it still on the air? Do you still watch it?
Well, all of those questions have different answers. Yes, it is still. Yes, it is still on the air. Yes, I watch it. No, it's not my favorite show. I do enjoy it. I actually didn't start watching until like 2 or 3 years ago when I had a friend and a former coworker on. And then when I moved out here, it was all around the same time. And I had friends who watched, so I kind of got into it then.
Wait a minute. You knew someone who was actually in the show.
Oh, I did too. One of the seasons I knew someone who had worked at the Tribune. She ended up going on the show. That's the one season I watched.
That's not my friend.
No, because that's probably when you were in like first grade.
There are probably way more episodes than I have any idea about if you both know people who have been in the show.
Well, the show's been on for like 25 years.
Okay, see, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Danny McRae, a former Cowboys player who now works for the Cowboys, was on Survivor a couple of years ago.
Okay. Former NFL player. I'm guessing he fared pretty well.
I don't want to spoil it if you want to go binge.
No, there's a couple of things that will never happen. I'm never going to be able to dunk a basketball, and I will never, ever go binge watch Survivor. So lay it on me.
He did pretty well.
Okay.
He did not win it all, but he did pretty well.
I want to get back
and went on to other reality TV shows.
Right. I want to get back to your original point, which was the plagiarism, Paulie plagiarism. The great Dave McGinnis used to say that it's not copying somebody, it's research.
I see. That's good. It all depends if there's attribution or not. You two should know that. Guys.
I've had enough people plagiarize off of me.
Go ahead. Name names, Darren. Let's go. Roll up the sleeves. Here we go.
You know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Name names.
little,
I'm the angel on your shoulder.
Little disappointed. Paul is the
devil right
now.
Little disappointed in Adam Schefter. Got to be honest. I know Adam a little bit, but if you go back and look at his Marvin Harrison tweet from Friday, it was Friday, right? Friday.
Darren going big here.
And you go look what the great Zach Gershman wrote at the beginning of our injury report on the website right before that tweet.
Wow. Yeah. Well, there was he did add a comma somewhere, so, it wasn't exactly.
A comma that my English teacher wife said shouldn't have been in there in the first place.
Right, just throw in a rando comma.
Look, Adam's making millions of dollars a year to do what he does. He'll live with a little bit of criticism.
He doesn't tweet his own stuff. He's got people that do that for him, right? I mean, let's be honest. Either that or AI at this point. Come on now.
Grialou tweets for me. Did you know that?
No.
I have to approve everything.
I'm going to look into that. Wow, really? Okay. What is Grialou's rate? I'm going to hire him as well.
See, that's the best part. I made it part of his job description.
You never got me a rate on pest control from last week.
That's true.
You never got me on that.
We got to work on that.
And over the weekend, I discovered some termites at our place. So do you handle termites?
I don't do termites. I have to hire. That's outsourced.
You call you're a pest control professional.
I will say this, apropos of nothing other than I need to include this for Paul.
All right.
We have a longtime fan apparently reached out on Twitter to Paul and myself, said he was coming to the game this weekend and he was hoping to meet us. It was his dream to meet the two of us. I told him, I said, look, Paul is a busy man. I mean, you have no idea the amount of work Paul Calvisi does on game days.
Here we go.
Unbelievable. However, I do have the time to come down and meet you. So I went and met Cole, a former service person, so thank you for your service. But I met Cole and said hello, and we took a picture together, and he couldn't have been more complimentary of what we do here, and wishing, of course, that he could have fulfilled his dream of meeting Paul Calvisi, but it didn't quite
No
happen.
disrespect to Cole, his name. Dream bigger. No disrespect to the two of you, but yeah, dream bigger.
No,
exciting. We love a long-time valued listener and expressing that. But come on,
and
guys.
then he said,
actually, I think that was double barrel diss to all involved. But go ahead.
He messaged me this morning to say that he had a great time. Obviously, the Cardinals won, and his wife bought season tickets for next year. So
how about that?
Did you waive your fee? Because I was going to respond, and then it totally slipped my mind. I was going to, Darren normally charges for autographs, so I didn't know if that was actually part of the. Okay,
this is all part of the gig.
The clock hits 000, and on the radio side, Ron Wolfley exclaims, "The Cardinals' season is still alive." Sensational, salacious, hyperbolic, or accurate? Was that a season-saving win by the Arizona Cardinals?
I am going to say
it's yes or no, Darren.
Yes, it was a season-saving win.
Okay, Danny.
I'll agree.
I'm not talking the rest of the podcast, apparently.
I'll agree. I think that was considered a season-saving win. You put yourself in a situation where you're 3-4. You are one game back from Seattle in the division, second place in the NFC West because the Cardinals have won every divisional game. There were also some game-saving plays early on. It's a very different situation had the Cardinals not won that game and you are sitting at 2-5. That is a very, very deep hole to dig yourself out of, to have any sort of hope of playoff contention later in the season once other teams also start rolling. I do think that's fair to say. It was a season-saving win.
Especially when you start talking about the fact that they got to go on a 2-day trip to Miami, who's going to get Tua back this week. I mean, you got a chance to do some things now, but if you were sitting there at 2-5 and making this cross country, that's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds? Cardinals can't get Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle or Tyler Huntley. The NFL's lowest scoring offense the past month minus Tua. So okay, that's cool. You want their best shot. We'll get to the Dolphins in a minute. By the way, I updated the stat because I know you guys want to hear it. The Cardinals' 4 losses are against opponents who now have 20 wins combined. 5 win Buffalo, Detroit, Washington, and Green Bay. And I bring that up because like a team like Chicago that has 4 wins have come against opponents who have 6 wins combined. So you know what? The other way in which this win saves your season is, guess what? The second half of your schedule, the rest of your schedule is unlike the first part of your schedule. So at least it keeps you in the mix. Once again, survivor. You survive the week, and then you go ahead, you regroup, you re-game plan. Hopefully you reload Darius Robinson. We'll see at some point. And then, boom, you play it from there. Because every week has its own challenges. Just like I'm guessing in Survivor, never seen it. I'm just going to presume. And then all of a sudden, you got to recalibrate. Yep. And here you go.
You know what, Paul? I think you should watch Survivor because Jeff Probst is a really great host. He's actually pretty funny and engaging. And when the contestants are doing these challenges and they're not eating, they're not sleeping, and they are drowning in the water, or they can't, he's in their face telling them essentially they need to pick it up.
That's good.
I was like, are you going with this?
He's like a drill sergeant? Okay.
I think you'd enjoy him as a host. Watching.
Oh, you're just enjoying it. I thought you were going down the road like, Jeff Probst is really good, Paul. You should learn some things. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
No, I think you could relate.
The thought bubble was said best practices, Paul. Tune in and try and learn something. That's what she was really thinking.
Let me ask you a question. Does the schedule really get easier? I mean, are the Dolphins, what are the Dolphins now?
It can't be any harder than the way it started.
Well, maybe, but they're not going to be a typical under 500 team if Tua is back and got his
Dolphins
stuff
are
together.
2-4 because they've already had a bye week.
2-4. Sorry.
So, look, all I know is, and we're going to get into this, the Cardinals passing game. Somehow Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill had 1 catch apiece for 20 yards combined.
You think they're a little anxious to get somebody out there who can throw the ball?
Complete non-factors. Which brings us, and we're going to get to James Conner here in a minute, but let's just get the whole passing attack out of the way because I'm going to update this one as well. So after your receiver crew had 5 catches on a dozen targets against Green Bay, what happened against the Chargers? They had the exact same 5 catches on a dozen targets. Go ahead and assess the state of the pass game. How close is it to clicking? Because I think we all agree, and there might be only one thing we agree on this entire edition of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation, that if and when the Cardinals pass game really does click, look out, right? I mean, it is a glaring omission in this offense right now, and your inability to keep a defense truly honest and complement the Kyler and James Conner run game, it is what's holding this team back.
This Cardinals offense still has a ways to go to be truly balanced. Their run game, top-notch. The passing game still is not there through 6 weeks. Post-game, running back James Conner said, in terms of the run game, it doesn't really click. It's a process. This is a process-driven team. So it's week after week putting in the work, trusting that work in the process, and that's how things start to click. That's taking a lot longer in the passing game, and it's a combination of things. There were multiple dropped passes on good throws by the receivers in Sunday's win against the Chargers. There were also a handful of throws that were short or overhead and not in the right spot. That's not only execution, that's also communication and making sure everybody's on the same page. You got to find a way to get the job done with your receivers. It's great that tight end Trey McBride continues to show up when his number is called and be reliable and dependable. It's great to have a running back like James Conner who can also catch the ball as a receiver. You need more from your receivers. Otherwise, you're just going to be one-dimensional, and defenses are going to know how to contain you, and that's going to make life really difficult, as we've already seen a handful of times this year when the Cardinals can't run the ball.
I mean, James Conner is so good. How good is he?
How good is he?
That he actually did the unthinkable and got the LA Chargers out of shell coverage. That's according to Jonathan Gannon, right? So at that point, because that's what you've been striving for X number of weeks, you got to get the opposition out of shell coverage, the whole two-high safety, keep everything in front of them. Once that goes away, because they, out of necessity, they have to put that extra safety in the box, at that point, on paper at least, theoretically, that's where you hit them with the chunk pass game, right? The downfield passing attack. And that's what I mean, that if and when that finally clicks, that's when you're going to see this offense at its best. But right now, there seems to be this limiter on the offense. I know you're a big NASCAR guy, Darren. They put these limiters on, some of these race cars.
Plates.
Restrictor plate. See, I knew
governor.
I knew that you knew the correct terminology.
Yeah,
so don't sandbag over here.
I grew up in the South Paw. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I do think, and I think we saw it last year in part because Kyler came back, but you can improve as the year goes on. At the same time, we are now 7 games in. We're right near the midway point of the season. At what point do you start saying, okay, this is what they're going to be? And, again, you try and fix it, but if you have the same people and you have the same coaches, I don't know how much different it can be. And again, if we look at something that is a microcosm of what we're talking about, it's the Marvin Harrison Jr. And what's going on there? Like that, yes, they got bailed out by the flag at the end of the game, but before he got hit, and it was a penalty, it should have been a penalty in my opinion, he dropped that pass. And I don't understand why. And it just, nothing seems to be going the way people thought it was going to go with him. And that includes him, that includes Kyler, that includes the coaching staff, that includes all of us who cover this team, and includes the fan base.
Yeah. I mean, everybody who just figured and factored him in for the next Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, yours truly. It's a reminder. There is no absolute when it comes to the NFL draft. There is no surefire plug and play. Everyone has their own timeline and learning curve. I will go back to the 4 C's that we introduced last week. Actually,
I thought we introduced a lot more than 4.
Climate, copper. Oh wait, that's right.
No. When you bought, by the way, I went and looked it up. So it's cut, color, clarity, carrot. That's the whole diamond ring thing.
I was
4
doing
C's.
I was doing the 5 C's of Arizona.
No, I'm talking about
you
diamond
obviously
rings.
didn't go to first grade in Arizona.
That's good though,
which
because
I did.
If I need a 5th C, then I'll evoke Arizona. But right now I'm using the whole diamond ring analogy. But the
That's
4
true.
C's as of last week, you checked the box of concussion. That was one, and then it was comfortable.
Yeah.
How comfortable is he in the offense?
Doesn't look very.
Okay. Contested. How many contested catches did he ever have at Ohio State? This appears to be a process.
Off the top of my head, the one that stands out would be that touchdown catch at home against the Rams when that defender's arm was in his face, the back of the goal line, and still made that catch for that touchdown.
That seems like 4 years ago already.
It does, yeah. The lesson learned here is that virtually every catch in the NFL is contested, right? And then the last one was confidence. Where is it? Where is confidence right now? And to answer your question, does that same throw in that same situation at the end of the first quarter against the Rams, is that a catch? Because he's rolling and he's confident, but now 4 games later and coming out of concussion protocol, and here comes a big bad defensive back with a head of steam, all of a sudden maybe your eyes and hands are elsewhere.
The confidence and the comfortability go hand in hand. If you're not feeling comfortable, then you're not going to feel confident. What you have to figure out is, how do you get to that point? Is it a situation where this offense is going to decide, we're going to keep feeding Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball, not necessarily forcing it if it's not there and it's not the smart call, but are we going to continue to feed him the ball so he's getting those reps? Or is the right call to not do that and to get Harrison running maybe different routes, shorter routes, more into the middle of the field, plays that aren't going to be those chunk, explosive, game-changing plays, and more of those smaller yardage to move the chains and build that confidence and that comfortability that way?
I mean, one thing, and I don't know what it looks like from the press box. Sometimes it can be, sometimes the sideline is the best and or the worst at the same time. But is he still getting extra attention? Do you guys, when you're up in the press box, are you keeping half an eye on 18? And is he still drawing that gravitational pull of the defense towards him?
There are times that Greg Dortch touchdown, if you looked on the other side of the field, they had another high safety waiting in the end zone.
So that bracket coverage there? Okay.
But again, are we going to start? It goes back to that same thing where it's like, are we going to say he's out of the mix if they're going to give him attention? And the other problem right now is, even if he is, and you're going other places, you're not getting the production there either. It was weird yesterday. Danny already kind of mentioned it because of the up and down, but like early in the game, it felt like multiple guys were dropping the ball.
Yeah.
And then up until that last Harrison drop, it felt like all of a sudden, for a stretch there in the second half, Kyler was having trouble getting it to where he needed it to be. There was the Zay Jones got one target yesterday, and he was open, and Kyler just threw it behind him.
Unless, is Zay Jones supposed to settle in the zone?
And there was I think there was a Michael Wilson play like that too. Where
the Michael Wilson play where he drew the DPI was short.
So like when you hear coaches and players say details, that's code for mental error, for dial it in.
That's fair.
Focus. And are those two plays we just cited an example of that? I think one thing the Cardinals have seen most every week, except for the Rams game, where they decided just to play man, and then they paid the price and they came out of it by the middle of the second quarter. Otherwise, what they've seen is a lot of the too high safety, the shell coverage, but more importantly, I think, is disguising coverages pre-snap, post-snap. So they're showing one thing pre-snap, boom, the ball snapped, and all of a sudden it's totally different. Now, how much of that do you get in college? I did a little poll, some of the receivers in the room and DBs, not a lot. So there's another aspect of the learning curve if you're a young receiver, is the disguising of coverages, because if you're running choice routes and option routes, and you have to be on the same page as Kyler, and you have to read it like a quarterback, and now all of a sudden the receivers are translating it differently than Kyler, well, that's how you're not on the same page. And ostensibly, that's what happened the first half of 2013, right? With Carson Palmer and the Cardinals receivers. Now, it finally clicked, and they got it in gear. But it was actually even worse under Carson Palmer. There was a whole rash of interceptions thrown by him back in the day.
Yeah, that wasn't a good time.
Marvin Harrison Jr., as a rookie, is going to need time to get comfortable with the speed of the game, with the offense, all of those things that come into play, even if you're a fourth overall pick. What's concerning is the other wide receivers and not being able to make those big-time plays. Even before Harrison was on the team, last year when the Cardinals were without a number one receiver, when Hollywood Brown got hurt, there were problems in the passing game, and the receivers were not able to step up. You were relying on tight end Trey McBride. You were relying on Connor out of the backfield. That's what it feels like now. It feels similar in that sense of the rest of your receivers aren't stepping up the way you need to in the rest of that room with the depth. I know we only have a 1-game sample size for Zay Jones as a receiver, so that's not necessarily the main talking point here. You still need more from the rest of your receivers. You can give your fair share of criticism or frustration to Harrison with those dropped passes if there is miscommunication on his end of where he needs to be lined up or where his route needs to break. You still need to give him a little grace and fairly criticize the rest of that room, I feel.
You mentioned last season, and you are correct, Danny. As
I always am.
Last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I said to Craig Grillo, I said, wasn't there that stretch of the season, the end of last year, and, come on, Gree, get off your rear, figure it out. And yes, indeed, the 3 games before the Philly win, at Pittsburgh, San Francisco at home, at Chicago, Cardinals receivers had 10 catches on 33 targets over that 3-game span. There was that similar drought, if you will. So here's the 5th C I'm throwing into, okay? We have comfortable, confidence, contested, concussion no longer a fact. Correctable is the 5th C. Correctable. How correctable is it? Is it a matter of time? It was last season. Down the stretch, they did figure it out, and it was much more productive. But I'd say I'm probably Captain Obvious if I go with the following. If I'm the Miami defensive staff, I'm going to put a spy on Kyler. I'm going to even put a run spy on James Conner, and I'm going to make you throw it to beat us. And until you prove you can, guess what? You're going to get tested. That's just – and if you look at the double – you guys remember my double barrel run game. It was roll out the double barrel run game. I won't go through all of it, but when you get James Conner and Kyler –
was that a reference to Green Bay?
It was, yes, okay. Because that stinking roll out the barrel thing they played to start the 4th quarter was still, stuck in my head. And so anyway, you look at it, the games where one or the other was taken away, the opponent wins. James Conner against Detroit, 9 for 17, Detroit wins. Kyler against Washington, 1 carry for 3 yards. That was early in the 1st quarter. Obviously a big win there. Now you go to the latest. What happens? James Conner over 100 yards rushing. Kyler 6 for 64. Cardinals win. If you can get both of those guys rushing the ball effectively, Cardinals win. So if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator, I think it's pretty obvious right now where you're devoting a lot of your assets.
The Dolphins have the #1 passing defense. They're allowing an average of just 155 passing yards per game. So that would be a pretty good game plan for them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't doubt. But I would think that's – I'm a little surprised that's not what happened. I think the Chargers actually would – I don't know about the Kyler part, but I think they wanted to make sure that Conner didn't go anywhere. They've been doing a good job against the run. I just think Conner out-Connered them.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. Well, we'll get into James Conner in a minute. The question is, should I change my game plan going into Wise Guy Trivia? Can I adjust to the adjustment, or is it just a woebegone season where I'm tracking to be the 0-16 Lions? Let's find out.
It's time for The Wise Guy, the world's fastest growing Cardinals quiz show. The stakes are low. The winner gets absolutely nothing. Here's your hostess with the mostest, Danny Sarat.
That's me. Let me think about who won last week to decide to receive or defer. Yeah. I think it was Darren.
I think it was. I'm going to defer this week, Danny.
Very kind of you.
Just think of who won every other week, and then that would be your answer. And don't say in the intro that the winner or the loser gets nothing. I mean, I'm wearing the scarlet letter L right now.
That's backwards, Paul.
All season. Scarlet letter L this season. I thought maybe it'd be reversed on camera. See, I'm already out of the gates 0-1. Here we go.
Paul, pick a number 1 through 4 for your question.
Obviously 2.
Okay, here we go. In 2019, the Cardinals traded for this Dolphins player who would go on to score 18 touchdowns in 23 games with the Cardinals.
Kenyon Drake.
He did it!
How about it?
Paul, on the board.
Impressive.
Okay, here we go. Out of the gates. This is, I just feel that, yep, the winds are a-changing. I can feel them.
Darren, pick a number.
I'm going to go with 4, Danny.
We don't know how Darren reacts when he's trailing. Can he come from behind? We don't know. He hasn't been tested yet.
Let's find out.
Yep.
At the end of the 2008 season, the Cardinals played in Super Bowl 43. 2 members of that team became Miami Dolphins later in their careers. Name them.
I'm going to go with Carlos Dansby and Calais Campbell.
Correct.
Wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Thank you very much.
I was going to answer Bruce Springsteen. How about a halftime question? Come on.
Calais is there right now, right? I think he's there right now.
Yes.
We're
And
gonna
Carlos
see him this
Dansby
weekend.
was 2010 to 2012.
We're going to see the big man on
Yeah,
Sunday.
we are.
Oh, can't
For
wait.
those of you that also watch Love Island, we're going to see Cordell's brother,
No idea.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh.
Come on.
Well, Jalen.
You guys
Is
give me
Love Island,
nothing
is
to
that-
work
Is that
with.
next to Survivor Island?
No, very different shows.
Oh, sorry.
Very. We'll discuss off air.
Hey, at least Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle had one catch. Odell put the O in Odell. He had Jack. Here we go.
Question 1 or 3.
Oh, 3.
In 1984,
Okay.
Dan Marino threw 48 touchdown passes to help propel the Dolphins to the Super Bowl. His top 2 targets had a lot in common. Both had over 1,300 yards receiving, both made the Pro Bowl, and both had the first name Mark. Can you name them?
I
You
can't
got a
believe you
grin.
gave up the first names. You should have made them figure those out.
I already had Duper and Clayton. I had it.
Okay.
Correct.
As a 49ers Jack Stomp Danny Marino in Super Bowl 1984.
Ooh, are we going to have to go to a tiebreaker?
We might.
It's
No.
up to Darren.
Maybe
Darren
I'll
isn't
do-
getting
I'll
this
do a
one.
joke
Here we
here.
He's gripping, I can tell.
In the 1994 comedy Ace Ventura: Pet Detective,
Oh, no.
Jim Carrey's
This
character.
is such an Omo question.
I mean, this
but
is
go
right in my
ahead.
wheelhouse.
Jim Carrey's character, Ace Ventura, was hired to rescue the kidnapped Miami Dolphins mascot. What was the name of the bottlenose dolphin who was taken from his tank at the stadium?
How the hell would I know
You
that?
better really think, because if not, Paul's going to get his first win of the season.
I understand, but I don't know the name of the damn I don't know, Squeaky.
Not a bad guess.
Oh, my goodness.
What question was that? Number 1? Yeah, so like whoever picked number 1 was going to lose this week.
Can you steal?
Can I steal the Dolphins' name from Ace Ventura? No idea.
Snowflake.
Oh, Blake, yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the unthinkable has
I think I
happened.
saw
Paul
Ace Ventura one
Calvisi
time when I
has
was like-
one wise guy. Let's do the
There we
tiebreaker
go.
just for fun.
There we go.
Let's do it just for fun since we don't play the
Congratulations,
Dolphins.
Paul. I knew you could do it.
Let's see who can get closest to this number.
At least I'm not mathematically eliminated yet.
Oh,
from
well,
the
here you go.
season
Speaking of
totals.
math.
Oh, boy.
Dolphins defensive lineman Calais Campbell.
Yeah, 6'8".
Has collected 107.5 sacks during his 17 NFL seasons.
17.
How many sacks did Campbell register in his 9-year career with the Cardinals?
Okay. Are we writing this down, or are we just
Yes.
blurting it out? What
I
are
have
we
an
doing here?
idea.
Write it down.
This is
Okay.
this is my number.
7-year career with the Cardinals. How many? Okay. Right.
9-year career with the Cardinals.
9-year career. I knew
107.5
Okay.
total sacks.
that. Yeah. Okay. All right. I got it right here.
Okay, what's your number, Paul?
Okay. 61.
Ooh,
Darren?
I said 64.
56.5. So Paul would have gotten the tiebreaker.
How about that? Okay.
Paul
Well,
is the best.
you know,
that's why I idolize him.
it's a decisive win.
Congratulations.
It's a confidence-building win, hopefully. The 6C is consistency. I need to carry this over to next week, obviously, is what I need to do.
I, for one, am shocked.
You know,
I'll be honest.
I was just sandbagging, really, is what I was doing.
Clearly a Miami fan here.
It's sort of like, if we went to the pool hall or out to the golf course, I would sandbag over the first, part of the competition, and then you'd put all your chips in.
Speaking of Ace Ventura, this is where I pull out my ace in the hole. This is a good time to talk about the
Okay.
picks.
Okay.
I thought we were going to maybe forget
we
this.
go.
This
Darren
week.
went 12-2 this past
Oh,
week and takes a
wow.
1-game lead over
Wow.
Paul, who went
Yeah.
11-3.
Okay.
Danny struggles at 7-7, and she's now 10 games below Darren in the standings.
If anything, this is just validation that I follow the NFL gambling rules by not gambling, because I clearly don't know what I'm doing when it comes to making picks.
We're not even using the spread here.
So,
The fact you're prohibited from gambling saves you a lot of money.
yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, rough week for me. 7-7. Who did I pick?
Yeah, that's a good question. Who were you picking?
Well, I deserve outside first place for actually picking the Jets over Coach Tomlin. Taking
I think I picked the Steelers.
The interim staff over Coach Tomlin was
in us this week.
About as idiotic as it gets. So when I'm out on Aaron Rodgers, then you know what, it's an uphill climb for him when it comes to public sentiment.
I picked the Jets.
Yeah,
I really thought Devontae Adams was gonna turn things around.
He made a hell of a tackle, Danny.
He sure did.
How about the heck of a pregame speech by James Conner? That is my segue, where speaking of gambling, so to speak, he said, push all your chips in. That was his message on Sunday night leading into the Monday night game. I want to go around the horn and everybody just give a thought, a reaction, something on James Conner that you think is compelling, that you want to convey. Kelvin Beachum, this is a real snapshot of what sort of game it was. The post-game radio interview, there was an open folding chair over in the corner of the locker room, and Beach walked over, and right before we were about to go live with the radio interview, he said, "Can I sit down?" I said, "Absolutely." 13-year veteran, and he sat down and proceeded to call James Conner, quote, "the lifeblood and heartbeat of this team," end quote. And coming from Kelvin Beachum, that's future governor / CEO somewhere, somehow, some way it's going to happen. I just, it really resonates. And then he, among others, brought up what James Conner had to say. And if nothing else, it wasn't necessarily what he said, but the fact that he was compelled to speak, right? I mean, based on the fact, like Kyler and others said, he's really a lead by example type of team captain. So when he does speak, it really does resonate with guys.
I mean, I don't think anything was said or we saw anything different Monday night about James Conner that we already didn't know. But again, to see it out there, I mean, he didn't have the best game in Green Bay. He didn't have the best game against the Lions, and then he's rallied and had these great games to follow up. And I just think that, one, I'm fascinated to see what happens with his contract situation because he is going to be a free agent after the year, and it just becomes more and more clear all the time what he does mean to this team. And you don't know what's going to happen, and he's going to be 30 and all these things. But, I mean, he's playing the best football of his career, and as much of an icon as he was for a short time in Pittsburgh because of where he went to college and where he's from and all that stuff, he has absolutely been a better player as an Arizona Cardinal. And you can see it all the time on about 1,000 different levels.
Conner's a warrior. In his personal life, the adversity he's battled through and how he carries that onto the football field. 19 carries for more than 100 yards. He had 8 missed tackles forced. And early on in that game, he had an incredible game-saving play by forcing the fumble. It was an interception by Murray to a defensive lineman, and Conner doesn't give up on the play, tracks down that D lineman from behind, punches the ball, and it's recovered, and the Cardinals are able to keep that possession alive. And that just encapsulates everything that Conner is, of giving his all every single play. He got you those dirty runs against a stingy #1 scoring defense in the league in the Chargers, and he helped keep that game alive on that final drive. It was a check down, that catch that became a 33-yarder and put the Cardinals in position for a game-winning field goal. He leads by example. He leads with his words when it's time to do that as a captain in the locker room. He is everything you would want to build an offense around.
And he doesn't run over Danny on the sideline, which is a plus.
Very kind of him.
What, you had a close call?
Yes. I tweeted about it, and if you look at the video, it doesn't look close, but you understand, Paul, when you're down there and there's camera guys and reporters in front of you, and sometimes the depth perception is a little off, those players come at you fast. And it was on that 33-yard catch where he ran out, was pushed out of bounds at the sideline. And so I'm also in like 3-inch heels, so I kind of run out of the way with Alex, our camera operator, and we move out of the way.
Yeah.
And then when Conner walks into the podium for his post-game press conference, before he even starts, he looks at me, he goes, "I almost ran you over, didn't I?" I go, "You sure did." And then he laughed and complimented my agility.
That's good. I did not see that. That's, there's one rule down there. When in doubt, get out of the way.
Head on a swivel.
Yeah, there's no glory in hanging in, believe me. But it's interesting. I saw on social media what Belichick was on the Manning cast, And when he had the forced fumble from behind.
Yes, I was the one who put that out there.
Oh, okay. So you want to read the quote, or I have it in front of me?
You use it in front of you because I don't have it in front of me. But
that guy is a football dude. That guy could play linebacker. Well, what's ironical, as I make up a word, is that he used to be a defender. He was once upon a time in the same D-line room with Aaron Donald at Pitt. So, yes, he's been there and done that before.
Yeah, he's a guy that when you talk about mentality and wanting it to be a certain way, if you're a football coach, I think James Conner was always that guy. He just happens to be playing running back.
And he reminded the media he was a linebacker at one point.
That's right. Yeah.
So.
Well, again, first of all, big guys need to be smart. I mean, what happened? The Saints big guy who made the pick in the end zone a few weeks ago, he knew what he was doing. He held it high and tight.
Yes, he did. He had
that dude for the Chargers, he was all over the place. Now, I will say this. If there's any check mark against James Conner last night, he had just gone through that whole thing early in the game, and then later he let a guy come from behind him and tip it away. Come on, dude. Like, this is happening.
Yeah. By the way, I've heard he had 8 missed forced tackles, and I've heard 10, and I've heard 11. So that's now 3 different figures out there. Whatever the deal is.
I wrote 11, so I must be right.
Whatever the case is, it's in the Arizona Cardinals' best interest to be in the game in the fourth quarter because he is unstoppable in the fourth quarter. I'd love an analytic on how effective he is in the fourth quarter. How many of those missed forced tackles, whatever they call it, happen in the fourth quarter? Because whether it's wearing a defense down, whether that's real or imagined, I don't know. But whether it's guys are at that point are tired enough, they're really not interested in tackling 230-plus pound James Conner. But it just seems like he is the key to victory if it's a close game in the fourth quarter.
That puts opposing defenses in very difficult situations. Are you going to prioritize keeping an eye on Conner and allow Kyler Murray to run the opposite way if he needs to? Or are you going to prioritize the quarterback and allow Conner to get some extra yards and know that he's going to break that first contact? It's a tough place to be if you're a defense going up against the Cardinals where that run game is rolling.
So here's the question that I asked James Conner 2 weeks ago. I've yet to get it into a broadcast because, Passion Wolf won't shut it enough for me to get it in. But it was a conversation, and it's a question I want to ask him for a long time. And he's a real hard guy to get a hold of. He's elusive, not only to defenses, but the media.
Yes.
And my question was, one question, James, here it is. Is vision as a running back a God-given gift, or does it get better with reps and years of experience? And he actually engaged the question. I think I got half a smile, And he said, that is something that I have prided myself on for a long time. That if you go back and watch my film, that vision is something that I think is a part of my skill set that I do well. And he sort of then after that, that was as open as he was going to get about it. But especially when you're down on the sideline, you just realize the chaos that is the line of scrimmage. I mean, it's easy on all 22, but ask any quarterback, right, who has guys bearing down on them. Are they able to see the field? Well, for James Conner, and these guys are flying at him and ready to rip his head off. In fact, he's able to set up blocks and find creases and running lanes and move a linebacker with his eyes and then go the other way and all these little things that running backs do. He's obviously not the fastest or most elusive guy. He's very physical, very hard to bring down, but just his vision to me, the more I watch him and his ability to pick where to run is remarkable.
You don't have to be the fastest or the most elusive to be successful and to really move the chains as a running back in this league. Conner proves that. He proves that you can still be more of that old school, big, bulldozer, hard-nosed runner that's going to go downfield, wants to get tackled, wants that contact to break through and gets better the longer the game goes on and he gets a little warm and he's reeling, making those defenders miss. He's a great example. You don't have to be small and shifty and elusive to be one of the best backs these days.
Then again, you're getting a Dolphin team that is a track team, right? In terms of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And is it Achane or A-Chain, the running back who's a track star as well, and he's their leading rusher? And now if you get Tua back, and to read between the lines of what Mike McDaniel told the media, and he said, yeah, quarterback play has not been good enough. They've used 4 different quarterbacks this season. They've scored 40 points total in their last 4 games because they've had miserable quarterback play. And you hear Mike McDaniel tell it, Tua's really the only one who's schooled up and or equipped enough to run what he wants to be a very fast offense in terms of decision-making, footwork, play fakes, the jet sweeps, all the motions. There's a lot of Niners in there, obviously, McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan, just at an even greater speed. So I'm real curious. It's going to be a really different offense than the Chargers, which was more like bludgeon you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a really different test.
A much different test. And it's going to be completely different because Tua's in the lineup. Because, as you mentioned, they have been nothing without him there. Now, you're assuming he's going to come back without any rust, which we will see what happens.
Good point.
But I think they're in a much better position with him than without him. And that's not an easy trip. It's, again, you go in cross country. You're going to have to fix your body clock a little bit. I'm curious to see how the Cardinals react to this one. They played so well defensively on Monday night and keeping the Chargers out of the end zone and not giving up any run plays. But again, as you said, you have a couple of superstar receivers that the Chargers most certainly did not have. And can that change the equation?
By the way, I didn't realize that Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, went on the record and told him to retire. He told the media recently.
Yeah, that was like right after it happened.
Right after it happened. Okay, I guess I missed that. So yeah, and Tua said, "Look, I'm willing to play the odds." Is his words when he met the media recently. He hadn't met the media since week 2.
It was yesterday. It was Monday.
That was in reference also to not wearing a Guardian cap.
Yeah,
that was asked.
So. And he said, among other things, do I want to be known for this? No, but that's the cards I've been dealt, and given the history of it, so it is what it is. And, it's the third concussion of his NFL career, and he's been medically cleared by all the experts, according to Tua and the Dolphins. So we'll see.
It is interesting how much can Tua Tagovailoa come back and be ready. This is... When you're talking about, it's not just an eyesight of this Dolphins offense that struggled. They're bottom of the league in third down, fourth down, red zone, goal to go, field goal. I mean, they have struggled offensively across the board. The Cardinals defense is coming off a strong performance. It's a different group of receivers, sure, between the Chargers and the Dolphins with the caliber and the skill set there. The Cardinals, though, their defense is going to have a lot of confidence. Getting a little bit of pressure. You had 3 sacks. You were able to stop the run. You were able to just allow 59 rushing yards to that Chargers offense with J.K. Dobbins out of the backfield. That was not an easy task, especially with the banged-up D-line. And you saw some really good play from Arizona's secondary. Max Melton had a really nice PBU. Garrett Williams had his hand out there as well for some of them. Starling Thomas had that big forced fumble at the start of the game. You saw some really nice things from a Cardinals defense that was coming off a rough week in Green Bay, and they were able to bounce back nicely.
Yeah, is the word of the week stack? The whole Sesame Street style. The word of the week is stack, as in stack 2 wins together.
Would that be your key?
It could be. It could be. I mean, I will say Monty Ossenfort was on 98.7 with Wolf and Luke, right? And he was asked, "What's your biggest concern?" This is going into Monday night. And his answer was, it's the overall inconsistency of our club. For us, the frustrating part has been the inconsistency. So, big picture, hit zoom out, big pick on the big red, stack. You have to get 2 wins in a row, 2 solid performances in a row. And in this case, you're going to have a short week, and you're going to have 3 time zones. We get it, and the long plane flight, the whole deal. And the early morning kickoff, right, on the East Coast, right, Arizona time. So,
will you be ready for that, Paul?
Will I be ready?
Yeah.
Why is that even a question, Darren? I'm offended that it would even be a
question.
Well,
I'm just assuming.
I'm saying based on Green Bay, I wasn't ready. Is that what you're saying?
I have that picture of Miami Beach at night with all those neon nightclubs, and I'm like, Paul Calvisi going to be out there. I mean, is he going to be ready for an early kickoff?
Hey, we vacationed in Miami this before we went on my wife's family reunion cruise. We spent a couple of days in Miami. I was not aware they consider that the off season, late June, because of the heat. We were walking around everywhere. It was mid-90s. Yeah, it was humid, but it was like 113 when we left Phoenix. So we're like, what's the big deal? We walked all over Miami in late June. So, actually, it was, I was mesmerized by the cars. There's a lot of supercars driving around Miami. There's a lot of money in Miami.
I've never been. This will be my first time.
Oh, you never been to Miami?
Oh, boy.
I was lucky enough, right before I got hired by the Cardinals, the final Super Bowl I covered when I was a newspaper writer was in Miami. And at the time, I used to get a little disappointed when I wouldn't get in the main media hotel because I felt like, hey, I've been around all these guys for a while. I deserve, but I was at a publication that wasn't considered high rent enough. Well, when we get to Miami, the convention center in Miami is actually only a few blocks from the beach.
Nice.
The main media hotel was actually into the city, into the inland a little bit. So like when you went from the convention center and you shuttled to the main hotel, you had to go towards inland. You had to cross this bridge to get to the main media hotel. The satellite hotels, if you didn't get in the main media hotel, they were on the beach. So I got to stay on the beach for a week, and it was awesome.
I bet. Hey, just the fact the water is warm compared to like Northern California, right, in the Monterey Bay. Oh boy, yeah, no doubt about that.
And as opposed to the last time we were there, Paul, the forecast is no rain, so we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Last time Cardinals were there, 2016, right? 8 years ago?
Yes, 2016.
Okay. Coming down in sheets the entirety of the game. Patrick Peterson, who grew up like 15 minutes from that stadium, laughing at all us media pencil necks in the sideline. Just
It was
drenched.
pouring when we got in Friday night. It was pouring most of Saturday when you wanted to go do stuff. It was pouring all through the game.
Yeah. So last thing, as Halloween is around the corner, more evidence that somehow our nation is consumed by zombies. I just, reality TV.
Doesn't that mean it's over?
And zombies. Like, what is our infatuation as a nation with zombies? Because there's a new study that reveals which NFL stadiums are best equipped for a spooky zombie apocalypse.
Somebody spent their time. What does that even mean? How do you assess that?
So apparently they analyzed a range of factors at each NFL stadium to evaluate which ones would best protect against a swarm of zombies.
Analytics.
And they were scored, all these factors, to give each NFL stadium an overall survival percentage score out of 100.
I'm going to guess Washington is worst.
And let's see here. Number one, envelope please. Darren?
That would be State Farm Stadium.
Is the worst?
No, it's the best.
Oh, the best.
Best equipped to ward off a zombie apocalypse.
Okay, great.
So if there is a zombie apocalypse, boom, head for the nest.
Survival rate percentage of 74.7%.
I wonder what the factors were that went into that.
It's the margin of error in that, exactly.
The cotton candy burritos?
So let's see. Okay, factors included locations, such as proximity to the nearest city center, population of the local area, stadium security features, like the number of large and small entry points and the number of sections, and whether the stadium had a roof, or better yet, a retractable roof. Okay, there's a double ding right there. So, and whether the pitch was suitable for growing crops.
I guess, the grass.
It's an apocalypse, Paul. You got to be able to grow crops.
What's the Mars movie with Matt Damon and he's growing crops on Mars? Interstellar? I don't know, something like that.
It was The Martian.
Yeah, okay. So, and then whether you had proximity to a natural water source. I'm guessing that wasn't good for the AZ, but...
Here's the thing. If that's the life you're living, I mean, is it really worth it at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Well, or do you just become a zombie?
Would you rather be a zombie? I mean, it's easy for you to sit here right now and say you'd just rather be a zombie, Danny, but I don't know if you were faced with
You're right.
that.
In the moment, I probably would want to survive. Let's carpool. If that happens, can we agree to carpool?
Yes, I'm going to carpool with you, Danny, in a zombie apocalypse.
Save the environment.
I'm going to blame it on the video game generation over the last 30 years or something, because like everything that you shoot, those shoot 'em up games and video games, normally it's a zombie, right? So then the zombies, some kids grow up with zombies, fair. And all of a sudden they're in movies and they're all over popular culture and TV shows and all the alike. That's my theory.
There's a lot of analogies when it comes to zombies in the current culture, I would think.
Okay. So,
question: are there not zombies in The Purge?
I don't know. I've never seen The Purge.
Neither have I.
There's only been like one Purge movie, so how would I know?
I guess that's true.
Hello. Okay, fact check here at the very end. There's been The Purge, Purge Anarchy, Purge Election Year, First Purge, Forever Purge. And by the way, they are shooting a 6th Purge movie.
What?
They are.
Are you in it?
Well, I've been trying to tell you that, it's going to be the Big Red Purge.
Oh.
Roster reset 2024.
I thought you were being serious for a second.
No, they are. They're shooting. No, they're really shooting a 6th one.
I mean, they are very popular. If they've reached Paul, who won't watch Survivor.
I mean, if it doesn't work in America...
Or we also learned he doesn't watch Family Matters because he doesn't watch sitcoms.
If it doesn't work in America...
Right. You and Steve Urkel are best friends.
Yeah, I was sharing an elevator with Steve Urkel pregame, and you didn't know that.
Did you get to talk to Baron Corbin?
I did not. No, I wanted to. I could see him. I'm up doing the pregame show. He's down in the field. You can't miss him. He's like 6'7".
6'8".
6'8".
Well, he's listed 6'8". I was standing next to him. I'm fairly certain that
he's
might
not
be
Calais
embellished.
tall. Not quite. No. Okay. Anyway, he's a very large human, and I wanted to relive
Everybody's large to you, Paul.
The training camp stories. I wanted to relive the training camp story.
Yes, that was the best part.
Did you talk to him about that?
Yeah, he came on the radio with us. He was on the pregame show with us.
Oh my goodness, he did.
And the whole segment was like I was talking to him about. He said,
you buried the lead on this edition of Cardinals Underground.
Maybe Omo can get you the sound because it was very enjoyable. Because Grilou, when Grillou's eyes lit up when. Baron, who was not called Baron back in those days. It was
Tom Pestock,
yes. Right? He talked about still having phone videos of him and Deuce Latouille and Jeremy Bridges doing like wrestling moves in the locker room.
Did Fitz ever try and take down Baron Corbin?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know.
Wow.
But he did tell the story about, I said, everybody said, Baron Corbin, by the way, WWE superstar, former Cardinal, came to the game the other day. I asked him, like, it was like a well-known thing that you were not to be messed with. Everybody knew it, even among the Darnell Dockets of the team. Everybody knew. How did that happen? And he talked about whooping up on Cody Brown.
That's it. It was Cody Brown. Oh, my goodness.
And then his reputation was set.
And it was known. Like, he was Gold Gloves boxer. Mm-hmm. He was a black belt. He had extensive MMA experience. Right, this is what he did. This is who he was. Do not mess with him. And then Cody Brown made the mistake of
messing with him.
Things got a little chippy at the end of a play, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. Cody Brown's helmet was off, and he had taken like 3 shots to the chin.
He said he was all worried he was going to get kicked off the team, and Russ Grimm came over and gave him a hug, and it was like,
that's right. Yeah.
Different times.
That was the era where, like they'd say, okay, wait a minute, this draft prospect got in a bar fight, and then
Bruce Arians would have kicked them all out of practice.
The response back in the day was, well, what's the problem? That's actually
this is what
plus.
We do.
That's a plus on the scouting report.
Anyways, we're sorry you missed Baron Corbin.
Yeah, that's
a lot of celebrities at the game.
I'm sure Baron will invite me to ringside seats.
One quick last thing, he came back up to the press box at one point. Orlando, our buddy Orlando, was showing him around the thing. Orlando was like, all right, where are you? I said, I'm in the press box. He goes, Tom has a question. And I'm like, okay, what is it? I'm sorry, Baron has a question. Wanted to come back up. I'm like, okay, what is this? He goes, so what are the rules of the practice squad? And I sat there for like 5 minutes talking to him about the practice squad because when he played, he was on the practice squad, but it was 8 guys. And you couldn't have more than 2 years of experience, and you certainly couldn't be brought up on game day. You had to be put on the roster. And so I was explaining to him all these changes, how many more guys they are, and how now you can have like up to 6 guys with more than 2 years and all that. And he goes, oh my God. He goes, I would have been in the league for 10 years if they would have had those rules.
That's right. We should have recreated the ESPN Sports Center commercial where Evander Holyfield comes in looking for Charlie Steiner. Oh, remember that? Charlie, where are you? You're going to get your whooping, right? And then Charlie's hiding under a desk. We should have done that. Baron was looking for Darren, right? And Darren's under his desk in the cubicle, and Baron Corbin's walking around with some boxing gloves on.
I would not mess with him.
Oh, you know what? Just the visual itself is a good mic drop here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.